13 laws of God that guarantee success. Success is not an accident. It is not a lottery ticket. It is a divine equation written into the very fabric of the universe. Just as there are laws of gravity, there are laws of God that govern your rise, your fall, and your ultimate purpose. And when you align your life with these laws, not merely in word, but in deed, you activate power, favor, and results that cannot be denied. These are not suggestions, they are spiritual laws. And if you obey them, success is not just possible, it is guaranteed. The law of divine purpose. You were not born randomly, you carry an assignment. Until you lock into that God-given purpose, you will wander through life accumulating things but lacking fulfillment. Purpose is not found in the world, it is found in the presence of God. The law of faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Faith is the engine that drives the soul. It is not hope, it is belief in action. Speak it, believe it, move as if it's already done. Faith bends reality to match your conviction. The law of obedience. Delayed obedience is disobedience. When God gives you instruction, follow without debate. Success comes to those who do not argue with divine direction. Obedience unlocks doors that effort alone cannot open. The law of honor. What you honor, you attract. If you dishonor time, you lose it. If you dishonor people, you repel destiny helpers. Honor is the seed for access. Always honor God, your time, your gift, and those He places in your path. The law of diligence. The hand of the diligent makes rich. Heaven rewards the worker, not the dreamer. Prayers are powerful, but without labor they are empty. God does not bless laziness. He blesses those who grind in silence with faith in their heart. The law of seed time and harvest. You reap what you sow. Every action, every thought, every dollar, every decision is a seed. You cannot pray for a harvest where you've sown no seed. Sow excellence, sow kindness, sow discipline. The earth and heaven will answer you in kind. The law of the renewed mind. The law of the renewed mind. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. If your thoughts are still bound by fear, scarcity, and guilt, no amount of effort will produce success. Success starts in the mind. Think like the person God has called you to be, not the person life has tried to shape you into. The law of vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish. You cannot build what you cannot see. Your future must be clearer than your past. Write the vision, make it plain. See it until it burns into your spirit, until every step you take is a step toward it. The law of the right association. Bad company corrupts good character. Your circle determines your ceiling. Surround yourself with people who pray bigger, dream deeper, and move with intention. You were never meant to climb mountains alone. The law of integrity. God blesses the pure in heart. Integrity is doing what's right when no one is watching. It is keeping your word when it's uncomfortable. It is walking away from shortcuts and choosing the long road of character. That is the road God walks with you on. The law of gratitude. In everything, give thanks. Gratitude multiplies what you have. Complaining shrinks it. A grateful heart attracts favor. Every day you wake up is a deposit from heaven. Treat it like the treasure it is. The law of persistence. Knock, and it shall be opened, but you must keep knocking. Persistence is proof of faith. When life resists, don't retreat. Press harder. Heaven tests those who say they believe. Quitting is easy, but champions are made by the fires they refuse to run from. The law of giving. You were not born by accident. You are not a random collection of cells thrown together by coincidence. You were formed by the mind of God Himself, designed with a blueprint that is older than the foundations of the earth. Inside you lies something that the world cannot give and the world cannot take away. Purpose. Not just ambition, not dreams, not desire, but a divine, God-given, heaven-assigned purpose that no one else on this earth can fulfill. Purpose is the foundation of all true success. Without purpose, you can have money in the bank and misery in your soul. Without purpose, you can walk into a room filled with applause and still feel empty inside. Purpose is the reason you wake up with fire in your spirit. It is the voice inside you that keeps whispering you were made for more. It is the invisible force that pushes you past fear, past comfort, and into destiny. You do not find purpose in comfort zones. You do not discover purpose scrolling through distractions. Purpose is revealed in the presence of God. in moments of solitude, in times when you silence the noise of the world and tune into the frequency of heaven. Purpose speaks when you're still. It speaks when you're willing to say, not my will, but yours be done. Too many people chase titles and forget truth. They follow the crowd instead of the calling. They want fame, but they abandon formation. They want success, but they ignore submission. And that is why they never truly arrive, because only divine purpose leads to divine results. Everything else is counterfeit. Divine purpose is not something you choose, it's something you accept. It is not designed to please people, it is not crafted to make sense to the world. Purpose is often uncomfortable, inconvenient, and costly, but it is always worth it. Because when you walk in purpose, you walk in partnership with the Creator of the universe. Heaven backs your movements. Doors open, mountains move. Favor follows you like a shadow. Success without purpose is the greatest form of poverty. You can have houses and cars, but if your soul is bankrupt of meaning, you have nothing. But when you walk in purpose, even if your hands are empty, your spirit is rich. When you know you're in alignment with God's will for your life, there is a peace that surpasses understanding. There is a confidence that doesn't come from credentials, but from calling. Purpose is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it shows up in the small things. It may be hidden in a moment of service, in a simple act of obedience, in doing the hard thing when no one is watching. But every time you say yes to that still small voice, you step deeper into the life God created for you. Every act of obedience is a brick laid on the road to purpose. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're saying to heaven, I'm ready. Many people miss their purpose because they're waiting for perfect conditions. They say, I'll move when I feel ready. I'll act when it makes sense. I'll step out when the timing is right. But divine purpose doesn't wait for your comfort. It requires your courage. God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. He's not looking for perfect people. He's looking for willing ones, vessels who say, here I am, use me. Your past does not disqualify you from your purpose. In fact, your scars are often the proof that you were born for something greater. The pain you survived, the trauma you endured, the battles you fought, none of it was wasted. It was preparing you. It was shaping you. It was building a testimony so powerful that when you speak, chains will break off others. Purpose is never just about you. It's about the people assigned to your voice, to your hands, your presence. Purpose will test you before it rewards you. It will stretch you before it lifts you. Sometimes it will feel like you're walking blind, but even in the dark, God is guiding. Even when you can't trace Him, you can trust Him. There is a divine GPS operating behind the scenes, rerouting you every time you step off course. God is too invested in your destiny to let you die in detours. He will let you fall, but He will not let you fail if you keep getting back up. Purpose is a decision. It is not just a feeling. It's not always exciting. It doesn't always come with applause, but when you choose to walk in it, your life becomes a magnet for miracles. You begin to see patterns. You begin to connect dots. You begin to realize that every closed door was protection, every rejection was redirection, every delay was divine. You cannot compare your purpose to someone else's. What God placed in you is unique. Don't copy, don't compete, don't complain. Comparison is a thief that steals clarity. You don't need their lane. You need obedience in your own. The grace on their life will crush you if you try to wear it. Stay in your assignment and watch God do more through you than you ever imagined. Your purpose will cost you popularity. It will cost you relationships. It may cost you comfort, but it will never cost you peace. When you live in purpose, you sleep at night knowing you're doing exactly what you were made for. You're not guessing. You're not hustling for validation. You're walking in alignment, and alignment is the secret to acceleration. You were not sent here to survive. You were sent to dominate, not in pride, but in power, not in arrogance, but in assignment. Your very existence is a threat to darkness. That's why hell has tried to keep you distracted, discouraged, and doubting. Because once you discover who you are and why you're here, you become unstoppable. You begin to walk different, talk different, think different. You lose interest in gossip and drama and meaningless things. Purpose gives your life focus. The world needs what's inside you, your voice, your vision, your experience, your testimony. There is someone whose life will change because you said yes to your purpose. Someone is waiting for your book, your message, your mission. You are the answer to a problem this world cannot solve without God moving through you. You cannot afford to live casual. You cannot afford to live aimless. Your purpose is too great. Your calling is too costly. God has invested too much in you for you to settle for mediocrity. Do not die with your music still inside you. Do not go to the grave full. Live full, die empty. Pour it all out. Let every gift, every idea, every assignment flow through you until there's nothing left. Purpose gives you the strength to endure storms. When you're on assignment, the attacks don't break you, they build you. You begin to see obstacles as opportunities, delays as training. You stop asking, why me, and start declaring, try me. Because purpose turns pain into power. It makes you resilient. It makes you dangerous to the enemy. And most importantly, it makes you unshakable. People may not understand your journey. Let them talk. Let them doubt. They didn't get the vision, so they won't understand the movement. But keep going. Keep building. Keep showing up. God will vindicate your purpose in public if you are faithful in private. You don't have to prove anything, just obey. The fruit will speak for itself. Success is not found in the abundance of knowledge, nor in the intensity of desire alone. True success, lasting, eternal, transformational success, is the result of obedience. Obedience is the bridge between what God promises and what you experience. Without obedience, there is no power. Without obedience, the dream dies in potential and never manifests in reality. The law of obedience is not optional. It is absolute. It governs the flow of divine favor and determines the extent of your destiny. Obedience is not just about following rules. It is about aligning your life with divine order. It is about submitting to a higher authority, recognizing that God is not only your creator, but also your commander. He does not just give suggestions, he gives instructions, and every instruction carries the seed of a breakthrough. Every command holds the blueprint of your next level. When you obey, you are not just complying, you are unlocking. You are unlocking doors you didn't know existed. You are tapping into levels of provision, protection, and promotion that only obedience can access. The greatest test of faith is not what you believe, it's what you're willing to obey. Many people claim to trust God, but they refuse to follow through when it costs them comfort. Obedience is rarely convenient. It often requires sacrifice. It demands surrender. It strips you of pride and demands you put your ego aside. But when you obey, even when you don't understand, you step into divine alignment. And alignment is the birthplace of miracles. Obedience is the act of saying yes when it would be easier to say no. It is doing what is right when no one else sees. It is saying, God, I don't need to agree with it. I don't need to like it. I just need to trust that you know more than I do. That is the heart posture that heaven responds to. That is the spirit that God promotes. Because obedience is the highest form of honor. It proves that your loyalty is greater than your law. It proves that your submission is deeper than your ambition. You cannot be partially obedient and expect full blessings. Partial obedience is disobedience disguised as progress. It's when you do some of what God said, but not all. It's when you delay what you were told to do now. It's when you edit divine instructions to fit your comfort zone. But the law of obedience requires exactness. God is a God of order. He doesn't bless rebellion. He doesn't reward compromise. He honors those who follow through completely, immediately, and faithfully. Your next level is often one act of obedience away. The door you've been praying for will only open when you obey the last instruction you were given. You don't need more confirmation, you need more courage. Many times God is silent not because he's absent, but because he's waiting. He's waiting for you to move, to trust, to do what you already know you were told to do. The clarity you seek is on the other side of obedience. The provision you're waiting for is hidden inside your yes. Obedience is powerful because it multiplies. One step leads to another. One act of surrender leads to a harvest of results. When Abraham obeyed, he became the father of nations. When Moses obeyed, he led a people out of bondage. When Noah obeyed, he built a vessel that saved generations. None of them had the full picture. None of them understood everything, but they didn't need to. They had one thing, obedience, and that was enough to activate the supernatural. Delayed obedience is dangerous. It costs time. It opens doors to confusion. It gives the enemy room to plant doubt. When God speaks, you must respond swiftly. Delayed obedience communicates distrust. It says, I need to calculate this first. I need to understand before I move. But obedience doesn't wait to understand. It moves in faith. It acts in trust. It walks by vision, not by sight. And that kind of obedience always leads to open doors. Disobedience, on the other hand, carries consequences. It disconnects you from the flow of divine guidance. It hardens your heart to correction. The more you ignore God's voice, the quieter it becomes. You begin to drift without realizing it. You start leaning on your own understanding, making decisions that seem right but lead to dead ends. Sometimes it's subtle. It's that one small compromise that opens the door to confusion, that one ignored conviction that leads to a detour, that one "I'll do it later" that delays destiny for years. The law of obedience teaches us that freedom is not the absence of rules, it's the result of living under divine order. When you live under God's direction, you don't lose control, you gain alignment, you gain power, you gain clarity, you walk in confidence because you know you're not leaning on your own strength. You're being led by the one who sees the end from the beginning. There is no safer place to be than in obedience to the voice of God. Obedience requires humility. You cannot be prideful and obedient at the same time. Pride says, "I know better." Obedience says, "God knows best." Pride fights instruction. Obedience embraces it. Pride needs to understand. Obedience needs only to trust. And when you humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, He promises to exalt you in due time. That exaltation may not come in the form you expect, but it will come, because God always honors obedience. One of the reasons many people stay stuck is because they want the reward without the requirement. They want the blessing without the behavior. But obedience is the path to inheritance. It is the test that unlocks promotion. You don't qualify for the next until you steward the now. You don't qualify for elevation until you master submission. God will not take you further than your obedience can sustain you. If your character can't handle the blessing, He will wait until you grow, not because He's punishing you, but because He's protecting you. Obedience is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes to say yes, even when it's hard. Every time you obey, you are training your spirit to listen. You are building spiritual discipline. You are proving that you are ready for more. And with every yes, God can trust you more. With influence, with favor, with responsibility, because you've shown that your heart is submitted and your will is surrendered. The law of obedience will often lead you into uncomfortable places. It will ask you to do things that stretch you, confront you, even scare you. It will lead you away from the crowd. It will call you into seasons of isolation. It will demand that you leave what is familiar and walk into the unknown. But every time you obey, you are walking into the land of promise. You are walking into the place where purpose lives. And in that place, you will find a version of yourself that you didn't even know existed. Stronger, bolder, freer, and more fulfilled. Your obedience isn't just about you. It is about everyone connected to your assignment. Your family, your community, your future. One act of obedience can change the trajectory of generations. One yes can break cycles. One surrender can open up blessings for your children and your children's children. That's why the enemy fights your obedience so hard, because he knows the ripple effect it will have. He knows that once you obey, chains will break, curses will end, strongholds will collapse, and the kingdom of God will expand through your life. Obedience must be internal before it becomes external. You have to decide in your heart, "I will obey no matter the cost." That decision must be firm, because once you decide, opposition will come, distractions will show up, alternatives will appear. And if your obedience is not rooted in conviction, it will be uprooted by pressure. But if your heart is truly surrendered, no storm can stop your steps. You will move forward, not because it's easy, but because it's right. The more you obey, the more you hear. Obedience sharpens your discernment. It tunes your spirit to the voice of God. When you act on what you hear, you gain access to more. But when you ignore divine direction, the flow slows down. That's why some people feel spiritually stuck, not because God isn't speaking, but because they stopped responding. They're waiting for a new word, but they haven't obeyed the last one. You want God to reveal more? Obey more. You want revelation? Respond with action. There is no substitute for obedience. You can't pray your way around it. You can't fast your way past it. You can't worship your way out of it. All those things are good, but they mean nothing if you won't obey. Obedience is the highest form of worship. It is the loudest expression of faith. It is the clearest sign that you love God. Because Jesus said, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Not "if you love me, sing louder." Not "if you love me, feel emotional." But "if you love me, obey me." So if you want to unlock everything God has for you, start with obedience. Not tomorrow, not when it makes more sense, not when it's more convenient. Start now. Obey fully, obey quickly, obey even when it costs, because the reward of obedience is always greater than the sacrifice. Always. The law of honor governs the rise of kings and the fall of fools. It determines whether a man steps into greatness or remains bound by mediocrity. It is not taught in schools or shouted from platforms, but it is etched into the fabric of divine law. Honor is the currency of access. When you honor, you open doors. When you dishonor, you lock yourself out of the blessings that were meant to find you. The law of honor does not depend on how you feel. It depends on what you recognize. You cannot receive from what you dishonor. You cannot rise under what you mock. You cannot be blessed by what you belittle. Honor is recognition of value. It is the ability to perceive greatness in a person, a place, a position, or a principle, and to respond accordingly. Honor is not flattery. It is not manipulation. It is not empty praise. It is a spiritual response to divine order, and wherever honor flows, favor follows. Wherever honor is withheld, favor is restricted. That is why so many people pray for open doors while dishonoring the very gatekeepers God placed in their path. They want elevation without submission. They want inheritance without recognition, but heaven does not work that way. The system of the kingdom is built on the structure of honor. Every man or woman God uses, he surrounds with a test, and that test is honor. Before David could wear a crown, he had to honor a king who wanted to kill him. Before Elisha could receive the mantle of Elijah, he had to serve him with loyalty. Before Ruth could find redemption, she had to honor Naomi. And before Jesus was glorified, he humbled himself in honor to the will of the Father. There is no shortcut to greatness. The path always goes through the gate of honor, because honor purifies the heart. It tests the motive. It reveals who is ready and who is just pretending. To dishonor someone is to reject what God placed in them. To dismiss their value is to cut yourself off from the gift they carry. This is why Jesus said a prophet is not without honor except in his own hometown. The people who should have received the most received the least, not because Jesus lacked power, but because they lacked honor. Their familiarity bred contempt. Their pride blocked their blessing. Their refusal to honor cost them a miracle. Honor is not about the perfection of the person. It's about the position they hold in the spirit. You don't honor because someone deserves it. You honor because God placed them in your life for a reason. And if you fail to recognize that, you forfeit the reward. Honor flows upward, downward, and sideways. You honor those above you, those who lead, those who carry vision, those who have paid a price. You honor those under you, those who serve, those who support, those who assist your mission. And you honor those beside you, your peers, your partners, your equals in the journey. If you learn to live in honor, you will never lack. Because honor attracts. It pulls wisdom towards you. It pulls opportunity towards you. It pulls favor, access, and relationships that others only dream about. The most dangerous thing a person can carry is the spirit of dishonor. It starts small, with sarcasm, criticism, or gossip. It starts with rolling eyes or questioning motives. But dishonor is a seed, and when planted, it grows into rebellion, it grows into entitlement, it grows into destruction. You must guard your heart against it. You must confront it when you see it. Because dishonor doesn't just affect one moment. It shifts your entire posture toward the people and places God sent to elevate you. Some people fail in life not because they weren't talented, not because they weren't called, but because they didn't know how to honor. They had the skills, but they lacked the humility. They had the anointing, but they mocked authority. They had the opportunity, but they disrespected the order. And heaven does not promote those who refuse to honor. God will never put you over what you cannot first come under. If you cannot submit, you cannot succeed. If you cannot celebrate others, you are not ready to be celebrated. If you cannot serve, you are not ready to lead, because greatness begins with honor. Honor unlocks inheritance. It opens generational blessings. It sustains legacy. You cannot pass on what you refuse to value. You cannot build what you secretly resent. That's why children are commanded to honor their parents, not because every parent is perfect, but because honor creates longevity. It creates alignment. It invites protection. The moment you dishonor the source that brought you into this world, you begin to cut short the life you were meant to live. It's not about legalism. It's about law, spiritual law, the law of honor. Honor must be expressed. You cannot honor in silence. You must speak it. You must show it. You must live it. There are people in your life right now who carry the key to your next season, but if you fail to honor them, you will miss the opening. And there are people watching how you treat others, because the way you honor one is the way you will honor all. Your words matter. Your tone matters. How you speak to your mentors, your leaders, your elders. It's not just manners, it's measurement. Heaven is measuring your readiness by how you handle the opportunity to honor. Honor requires discipline. It is not about emotion. It is about decision. It is the decision to say, even if I don't agree, I will still respect. Even if I'm frustrated, I will still respond with dignity. Honor is not weakness, it is strength under control. It takes power to restrain your pride. It takes maturity to yield to wisdom. It takes courage to uplift others when you feel unseen. But every time you choose honor, you build spiritual muscles. You gain trust. You rise in the spirit. There are environments you cannot enter until you learn the protocol of honor. There are circles, rooms, relationships, platforms, and yes, even callings that require honor as the entry key. You can have talent, charisma, even revelation, but if you lack honor, the door will not open. Because God protects sacred spaces with the guardrails of reverence, He will not allow dishonor to corrupt what He has sanctified. And so He waits, He watches. He looks not for perfection, but for honor. The man or woman who honors will be the one who inherits. Honor brings promotion that no man can stop. When you honor rightly, you position yourself for divine acceleration. People may overlook you, systems may resist you, circumstances may delay you, but honor makes a way. It speaks when you're not in the room. It fights for you behind closed doors. It raises up voices on your behalf, because heaven will always back those who walk in honor. Your time will come. Your voice will be heard. Your light will rise, not because you demanded it, but because you honored your way into it. Honor is tested most when it's hardest to give, when you're overlooked, when you're mistreated, when you feel ready to rise but are told to wait. That is the moment where honor becomes your weapon. Anyone can honor in comfort, but those who honor in adversity carry a weight of glory that no title can provide. Their spirit becomes unbreakable. Their integrity becomes magnetic. Their influence becomes inevitable, because they've mastered what few ever understand, that honor is the language of the wise. Your ability to honor determines the level of impact you will carry. No one rises by themselves. Everyone is standing on someone else's shoulders. A mentor, a parent, a leader, a friend, a teacher, a prayer warrior, a voice who stood in the gap when you didn't even know you needed help. And when you rise, you must never forget, gratitude fuels honor. The more grateful you are, the more honorable you become. And the more honorable you are, the more God can entrust to you a care. This law governs how you treat others and how others treat you. If you are constantly disrespected, devalued, or overlooked, it may not be a coincidence, it may be a mirror. The dishonor you sow will return. The disrespect you allow in your speech, in your decisions, in your relationships, it will become the climate of your life. But when you begin to sow honor, the atmosphere shifts. People treat you differently. Opportunities find you. Favor rests on you. Because honor creates gravity, it draws blessing in your direction. You don't have to agree with someone to honor them. Honor sees the God factor in people. It separates the person from the position. It says, I may not like everything about you, but I will still respect what God placed in you. That kind of maturity is rare, but it is required for elevation, because until you learn to honor people as vessels, not just personalities, you will remain spiritually shallow. But when you honor the God in others, you make room for the God in you to grow. You don't need to force honor. You need to choose it. Choose it in your speech. Choose it in your actions. Choose it in your attitude. Honor even when no one is watching, because heaven always is. And when heaven sees that you honor what others ignore, what others criticize, what others step over, it begins to pour out blessings that no man can take away.